Welcome to the Beasts of the NFC East podcast. I'm your host, Sean Gnitzcavich, with my co-host, Jeremy Goode. It's Wildcard weekend. Things got wild. Not really. Most of the games were boring, but I guess the Commanders game was a little bit wild. And Jeremy Goode, what is good, man?
Eagles move on. It's great. It's the playoffs. You can never. It's always survive in advance. Obviously, you want to play better here and there, but they're moving on. I played a good Packers team, not a great Packers team, a Packers team that I think has a lot of talent going forward, but has some questions, maybe a quarterback, which is a little wild because we thought that they had that figured out. But yeah, all is well here. Moving on to the Rams. You're right about the game, Sean. Not many were great. The last one, of course, saved the NFL a little bit, but
last one on Sunday, but not the one yesterday. Yesterday,
right? Right. True. Yeah, I guess I was. Yeah. I open it up to 7 teams in the playoffs. I think this is what you kind of get, at least with 2 games guaranteed. But and it feels like last year's Packers versus Cowboys was a little different and the outlier. But yeah, we move on to the divisional rounds. Good teams, of course. There, some good games. We'll get into it.
Yeah. Obviously, I think we were talking about this. The big news from the non-playoff teams. Giants, nothing really. Ryan Cowden went to join Mike Vrabel as an executive over with the Patriots. He was with Mike Vrabel back in Tennessee. I believe he was the executive that Mike Vrabel wanted to promote to GM when they fired John Robinson for the horrible A.J. Brown trade. Instead, the Titans opted to go with Rand Carthen. He wanted to keep Ryan Cowden. Instead, they let go of him. He went with the Giants. I don't really know what he did. I mean, I guess if he helped with last year's draft, the one outlier of Joe Shane's good drafts, then darn, he lost a good one. But, I'm not shaking in my boots. The big news, though, is the Cowboys parting ways with Mike McCarthy and potentially leaving that spot open for Deion Sanders. But I also think that's just a bunch of hullabaloo because Deion Sanders' name just, sparked so many clicks and so many views. Even Adam Schefter himself, he was like, what's the next conversation for you and Jerry? And even Deion was like, I don't know. I think Jerry's like, what do you think? Would you be the coach? And he'd be like, maybe, but it doesn't sound very, I'm not penciling in Deion to the Cowboys. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's just so, this is bizarre world with the Cowboys. It's always something. I don't think when you sign up to be the Cowboys head coach, you're losing basically all your power because Jerry Jones is the one who controls everything. Eagles, in a way, kind of have a similar concept, but it's not as bad with Jeffrey Lurie, Howie, the head coach of the Eagles. But with Dallas, you have basically no say as a head coach, no power. And it's the reason why they've been awful for the last 25 years. So McCarthy fits the bill perfectly. Jason Garrett fit the bill perfectly. Yeah, and I don't think Deion. I think Deion wants control. I think it's the reason why I think he loves college football because as a college coach, you just have absolute control of everything. And it's when you see guys move up from college to the NFL who are good college coaches, like Chip Kelly, who don't do as well because these are grown adults. They're professionals. And it's just different. Money's different. It all talks differently in the NFL. And coaching it's a lot. You just don't have the control that you did in college. I think Deion Sanders wouldn't work in Dallas. That's putting it very lightly. It would be a Dallas rumor. They want to be in the news. They want the attention. It's the brand is more important than winning. By all means, go get him. But I just don't see it with Dallas.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they would wait until after the Commanders and Eagles win their playoff games and advance to the divisional round. It's almost like also if you must have kind of seen the writing on the wall with Mike McCarthy. Why wouldn't you get rid of him a week early so that way you could maybe interview the 2 top candidates and the Lions coordinators during their bye week, which everybody else seemed to get in on the action with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. If the wouldn't you have maybe tried to pursue that? Now you're just a week later on the job search.
I'd have to fact check this, but I think playoff teams, coaches on playoff teams i.e. Ben Johnson for the Lions,
Yeah.
and what the Eagles are seeing with Kellen Moore.
Mm-hmm.
I think coaches are not allowed to interview until the divisional round. I'd have to fact check that, but I think that's the rule.
Oh. That's interesting.
Still, I think you'd always want to be on the front edge of firing a coach and being able to see the options early on. So I don't know, especially when you're you're rumoring with Deion Sanders from the start. So I don't know. I'd have to check on that.
Yeah, I mean that was the first candidate link. That is like kind of crazy. Also with like Deion Sanders, like I just saw prior to the whole like Deion link to the Cowboys, like he's talking to his Colorado Buffaloes team, which he's still
Yes,
coach
new
of,
rules.
and talking about the new rules and everything. He also said the only way he'd go to the NFL is if he was coaching his sons, quote unquote, both sons.
Right.
And what the Cowboys are gonna pay Dak all this money and then be like, oh wait, no, we really just planned to get Shador Sanders this whole time. Like it's which I don't know. It's just it all seems like a mess to me. I
Yes,
mean,
and
if you're the Titans, do you like eat all of, or do you take Dak for the number one pick if the Cowboys eat all of his money and then they get Shador Sanders? Would you do that? I don't. This is just
so
total
the
speculation.
Titans get Dak, Cowboys pay for Dak,
Yeah, a
and
majority of his contract.
do the Titans get anything else?
I feel like they should probably get something else too.
I feel like they should get some picks.
Yeah, maybe because it's for Shador Sanders.
Especially where Dallas is drafting, where they'd have to. They're not like too far, but they're in a range where they'd have to trade up. If I'm Tennessee, no, I don't want Dak. It doesn't really make sense either because Dak isn't that young. Even if you're not paying for most of the salary, it's like maybe you could start over with your own quarterback and get him on a good deal for 4 or 5 years. So it's like, I don't want I don't want Dak.
Yeah, I and the other thing too, and this isn't we're going to get into the wild card stuff, but the way that Sam Darnold played yesterday, where everybody said, "Oh, he's definitely going back to the Vikings." There's a chance now that maybe he is available, but also,
what do you think? Do you think if you're the Vikings with all the odds, they have JJ McCarthy, they have Daniel Jones as a backup, but let's just stick with McCarthy being healthy.
Yeah.
Would you bring back Sam Darnold? Because if you're the Vikings too, you're paying him for what he did last year.
Yeah, I think you are, unless. And I've talked about this with my friend who's a Vikings fan, or you franchise tag him because he probably wants to. Like, this is the most success he's seen in a team where I don't think he would be that upset for getting franchise tagged and missing out on his big payday. I think give him one more chance, and then if he plays well again, I mean, if he's a first round exit, but he wins 14 games, I don't know if he plays as bad as he did yesterday in like the most stakes on the line game of his life. It's hard to say, but the O-line wasn't doing him any favors. Still, there was a lot of poor decision making.
He still holds on to the ball
time.
too much. He still holds on to the ball too much. 2 weeks in a row, big games, really awful. The problem with franchising him, it's an issue in two ways. One, it doesn't do him any good long term. So if he doesn't have a good year under the franchise tag, he's going to probably lose long term money for many years going forward. He wants to get a contract down now. If you're the Vikings too, it gives you flexibility going forward, but it doesn't help JJ McCarthy because he's just going to sit there at that point. So it's like whatever decision you make, you don't want to hinder McCarthy. So like if you were to give, which I don't think they're going to do after the last few weeks, but if the Vikings did give Darnold a contract, they could then trade JJ. If you give him 1 year on the franchise tag, you're not really going to want to trade JJ because it's 1 year, but you also don't want him to sit on the bench for that year. Kind of odd. If I'm the Vikings, I wouldn't. I think you saw the true colors of Sam Darnold. Very good year. When it mattered most against good teams, he just was not good. I wouldn't want to put all those years towards him in money. And you have JJ McCarthy on the bench, regardless of how you feel of him going forward. A lot cheaper. I think a better option overall.
Yeah, I think honestly, the reason why this really affects our division is the Giants, like namely, because if Sam Darnold does hit the open market, it does kind of help the Giants. He's available for them as a bridge quarterback. Don't love it,
Right.
but I also kind of prefer that over trading a bunch of picks to move up a spot for like Shore Sanders, who I'm not fully in love with. And then maybe just waiting with a bridge quarterback with Sam Darnold. I still think I like Justin Fields better. I think that he has higher upside, even though Sam Darnold showed more this year.
Right.
But
Sam
also
Darnold
that's just
talent to throw.
Yeah, that's just also like he did. Jordan Addison looked amazing. Like thinking of him as a wide receiver too, awesome. T.J. Hawkinson, great coming off the injury, and obviously Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver in the league. And like seeing some of the catches that he had last night, like selling out for like a 5-yard game for a first down, like that's that wide receiver one. Do whatever for your team. It was awesome. But the good thing is that if Sam Darnold does hit the open market, maybe teams like the Titans who. Rand Carthen was linked to Cam Ward. He gets fired. Maybe the Titans above don't want to give up on Will Levis. I don't know. We'll see. It's all speculation. More stuff is going to be clearer in the upcoming weeks, closer to the draft, stuff like that. But
the Titans have the first. The Titans have the first pick, and then Patriots have the second pick.
No, Browns, then Giants.
Oh, Browns. Yeah, put two quarterbacks. Yeah. I think if you have the first pick, I don't think you want to go through someone who has struggled and had a very good year as could be possibly an outlier in Darnold. I think they want to just draft their own quarterback. And I think the market's going to determine – the big thing is the market determines Sam Darnold. Darnold's going to look for multiple years, and it just takes one team to buy into that and say, well, okay, we'll give you 4 years. So I think that's what – maybe, for the Giants, it's a bridge, not an awful option maybe or possibly –
but we can't be locked into another Daniel Jones.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. The Giants are looking for him as a bridge, most likely. Yeah, they don't want him. But another team that could be desperate, that could make a bad move, who isn't drafting high in the draft but needs a quarterback or drafting high enough, maybe they say, Sam, we'll give you the 4 years. We'll coach you up. And then maybe the coaches have ideas of how to coach him up, get the ball out quicker and whatnot. So it depends on the market. It depends on how desperate and how if teams can work out a 4-year deal at not too much of an outrageous price. And based off of Darnold's performances the last few weeks, I think he lost several dollars. And when I say dollars, I mean millions. So, which I don't celebrate, but I think that could help a team in negotiating, getting the best of both worlds. We'll give you multiple years, Sam, what you want, because you're going to get a lot of money off of all those years, but it's going to be a little less than what, the stars are making.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of see him getting like a Daniel Jones-esque contract. And I don't
something like that, I could say.
And I don't see Joe Shane or Brian Dable. I think more it might help if, say, like the Browns maybe are like, we prefer him over Shador or Cam Ward, which I don't know. I don't see happening just yet. But we got the playoff games, man. We gotta talk about like the teams that are actually still in it. The offseason, we got all offseason talk about that.
Yes.
The divisional round is now. And the NFC East, only division to have 2 teams still in the playoffs. So, hey, beast of the NFC East. That's awesome for you guys. Congrats. I'm so happy as a Giants fan. I'm not sad. The Cowboys aren't firing their coach over it. Very cool. I guess we can start with – I think we'll go into the game. We'll recap the wild card and then preview the divisional game. I guess we should start with your Philadelphia Eagles, Jeremy. The Philadelphia Eagles, man, first half looked a little sloppy, but came off on top in the end and kind of really owned the game from start to finish. But, they beat the Packers 22-10. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on this game, man? What was going through your head? And have you bought the book yet?
It's a lot. I mean, it very weird. It was a little off. Definitely rusty. Jalen was rusty, even though he started 6 for 6. Afterwards, I don't think he completed a pass for an hour in real time. Rusty. I think it helps that the defense was so elite and shut out the Packers for basically the entire game and definitely the first half, not allowing any points. This is sort of the identity of this team. Defense first, offense second. I think we're a little surprised that the offense never really clicked all season. They were still a top 10 offense, which is important to know, and the offense is still pretty good. But I think we thought that this could be like a legendary, elite, top 10 maybe of all-time offense. It certainly isn't that. After the 6 completions, Jalen just looked, and there's different kind of rust too. It's like rusty as a thrower, just rusty as like seeing the field. It definitely didn't seem like he saw the field well in the second quarter on.
Yeah, didn't see A.J. Brown much at all.
Did not see A.J. Brown at all. Had a lot of protection. I feel like I'm bearing the lead. The Eagles, but the positives, I guess, you beat a good team by 12 points at home, which is very impressive. I think the Packers are solid, not very good, not great, but they're a dangerous team, and they have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. In the regular season, they had the 5th-ranked offense. In the regular season, they had the 6th-ranked defense. It shows. They have talent. They're a good team. I didn't think they were going to come in Philadelphia and get a win, but the Eagles ultimately were just so physical from the start. Opening kickoff, fumble, leads to 7 immediately. Then the Eagles get a field goal, 10-0. And then if you're Green Bay, it's like you're in a 10-0 hole in the first quarter. They then stepped it up on defense. But, yeah, Eagles are just a very physical team. That's what's going to win you games in the NFL. It's all about the trenches, the guys up front making a hit. A lot of guys on Green Bay were rolled out of the game because of a lot of hits by like Nolan Smith, and Kobe Dean and Reed Blankenship late. So it's like, and they're all legal hits. That was a thing. It was like they're just great textbook hits. Eagles are just a better team, stronger team, more talented. Packers are good. They are the most worthy 7 seed ever. Obviously, we've only had a few of them, but I think that they probably in a normal year, you could say that could be a 4 seed, 5 seed. Something like that. 3.
I mean, they had more wins than the 4 seed, right?
Yeah,
more wins.
And they should have 12. If they beat the Bears in the last week, they would have had 12. Now, that would have been a 15-win Lions team, a 4-2-win Vikings team, and a 12-win Packers team. The NFC North probably had the easiest schedule in NFL history. I don't know what happened there because I think we're seeing the true colors with how the playoffs looked. But yeah, Eagles were just a better team. It was good to see they didn't, rusty, but they delivered when they had to. They were up 6 early-ish in the fourth quarter, killed some clock, kicked a field goal. I like that. Obviously, touchdowns are better, but if you do kick a field goal to make it a 2-score game, obviously you like that. If you're killing time, love that too. Problem with this team is that sometimes they score too early. So it was just they delivered when they had to. Jalen stepped up when he had to. They have to improve. They have to do better. They have to prepare for the Rams. But overall, the playoffs are just weird, Sean. If you don't win, you're miserable. There's nothing, and you're out. And if you win, it's like good. You can play better, but it's like you have to win. So they did that.
It doesn't carry over to the next season either. You're like, it was hard. Like
right.
It's not like, you're going to take this away from this awful loss for next season. Like, I mean, sometimes it's like bulletin board material for like when the Lions played the Niners this like week 17 and they crushed the Niners when they didn't really have to. They just kept powering. But for a team like the Packers, they're one of the youngest rosters in the league. So they didn't look great, but like you said, those injuries. Elton Jenkins, their right tackle, who's a star right tackle, Nolan Smith, like you said, wrecks him in the shoulder, totally legal. But the guy who replaces him had like 5 holding calls. Like and he got replaced like after like his 3rd holding call or whatever. And then obviously Jaden Reed looked like what they needed. I kept on saying, because, my girlfriend's, I'm like, Jalen Reed, that's what we need. I was so stoked. And then Jalen Reed, gets hit by Reed Blankenship out of the game. It was just, and even Josh Jacobs towards the end, they couldn't even use him. Like
hobbled, yep. There's some downs where they couldn't use him late, which they would have, yep.
Yeah, so that was rough. One thing I did see, Keyshawn Nixon said Then he fumbled. He recovered the fumble initially, and then somebody hit him when he was on the ground, and he said it was the hardest he was hit. I don't know if you saw that clip. If you saw it,
I didn't see that clip. I mean, I saw the play, but I didn't see.
Well, it was a lot of bodies. When it happened, I was like, "This isn't real. No way. Nope. This isn't happening." And it happened. It happened, and that kind of set the tone. Like, even though dude, Jalen Hurts looked sloppy in that. I think he had 59 passing yards in the first half. Like,
no, I think it was like 30. I think it was like 39.
30, 39.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I knew it was abysmal. I mean, he only finished with 131. Didn't really need to as much, even though the Packers were one of the
net throwing yards. I think it was like 110 in retrospect.
Yeah, not amazing. But if you're the Eagles, I don't think you come out of this performance and you feel great, but you got the win. You know, like you're not.
Yeah.
You don't. What is to be optimistic of is that you're playing the Rams next, and the Rams is where you had your best offensive performance. Defensively, you feel great. You feel. Right. I mean, like you can't. I mean, Quinyon Mitchell gets his first interception of the season.
Yes.
And that was awesome. Zach Bond, that one was kind of thrown to him.
That was just a moronic play.
Yeah, and then the Darius Slay interception was sick. I mean, that was that was just looked like
first of the year for Slay too. None of our cornerbacks had an interception this year.
That's crazy.
Don't throw there at all. Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's kind of good, I think, because if you know there's stuff to work on, and I think that the staff knows, like, hopefully where to make corrections, where to adjust, how to game plan differently. So I think in that way, I think that it's good. Obviously, you want to play a little better. I think that they should have, with the way the game started and how it should have gone. I think that they very well could have blown out Green Bay, but it's all about corrections. It's all about preparation. Rams have to come to Philadelphia. Next game's in Philly, obviously, of course. So, just got to use everything to your advantage and make corrections on things that it sounds silly, but it's better to say you have to correct your mistakes after wins than after losses. Especially, you just have to survive in advance. It's just moving on. Obviously, they played. You got to give Green Bay talent credit because they're good on both sides. I think that they need more when Christian Watson isn't out there. They just are not that good of a vertical team on offense. I think they have to get Reed more options. I think or get Reed more involved. Jacobs, I think maybe more in the pass game too. I don't know if Love's the guy. I think he's very talented, but he just turns it over. Like
I'll tell you, I mean, Jacobs was good in the pass game, but he only had 3 receptions for 40
He was
yards.
good too, especially when Nakobe Dean got hurt. Then they started to pick on like Warren Burks in the pass game with Jacobs. That's where he looked good. So, yeah. Season comes to an end for the Packers. I think that it's weird because last year they overachieved and it looked great going forward. And this year, I think you would say that they underachieved, but they still are very young and still have a lot of talent. But there's just still a gap between them and a Super Bowl run, in my opinion. I don't know what Jordan Love has to be more accurate with the ball downfield and anywhere around the field, honestly. So, but Eagles move on and did enough and took care of business, which in the playoffs, in my opinion, is fine. Hopefully, if you're making corrections.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they were missing their top 3 receivers for like that whole second half, with Romeo Doubs hitting her in that play. So they were down to like Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, and freaking that Jeff Heath who caught that first down conversion out of bounds and kind of
that was a dumb play.
Yeah, rough. But reasons to be optimistic for this upcoming matchup. And you guys are playing at the 4:30? Is it 4:30 slot?
3 o'clock
Eastern. 3 o'clock Eastern.
3 o'clock Eastern, yes.
So 2 o'clock for me. Ooh, fun. That's a nice early game. Yeah. So the Rams are going to Philadelphia. And like I said, you guys played in late November. You beat the Rams. That was at SoFi too, 37-20. Saquon Barkley had the most rushing yards in his entire
Yes.
career.
Yes.
255, was that it?
Yes. Combined
Yeah.
for 300 all-purpose yards. Yes. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is
Yeah.
they played them really. They prepared for them really well. Then that was a good Rams team. Now, then still a good Rams team. Now, hopefully, they're still. It's like you sort of have to play the game where it's like, how are the Rams going to adjust from that game going forward? And you sort of just have to like keep on evolving. If you're the Eagles, obviously the game plan worked then. Different teams now and a few months in between. So if you're the Eagles, you sort of have to prep for how you think the Rams are going to adjust to you. And I think that even though in a way that could be hard, I think that the Rams try to do a little bit of the opposite of what they did against the Eagles that didn't work. So we will see. I think if they try to focus on stopping the run, you're just going to have to get the ball out early for the Eagles and use your passing game weapons that you have. Goddard's now healthy. We obviously saw a great touchdown from him. Devontae Smith, active. A.J. Brown, not as much. Did some reading on the sideline.
Did you get that book?
I did not get the book. I actually looked for the book on Amazon an hour after the game, and I go, I bet a lot of people are going to buy this book in this area. And then 12 hours later, best-selling book on Amazon.
So, I was going to say, I still haven't counted up the wins. I think that would be a good prize. Like, whoever wins our fantasy tournament,
yes,
the loser has to buy them the Inner Excellence book.
I like that. That works.
It's only like $18. I think it's a good.
I like that. The book seems interesting too. I mean, obviously,
I read some passages, dude. I was like, wow. I was feeling a little bit down too, and I was like, dude, you know what? I could catch a fucking touchdown next play too, man.
It's funny good, because dude. Like anytime people ever go like, how do like influencers or celebrities or athletes in terms of endorsements, like how much that works in the long term, that's a perfect example. He's reading a book, it gets picked up, and then people start to buy it because they love A.J. Brown, they love the Eagles, and they're from Philadelphia. I mean, that's just the power of that stuff. But getting back on topic, obviously.
Yeah. Looks good, though.
Yeah, I think if you're the Eagles, you have to sort of assume the Rams are going to do the opposite as a way. So a little weird, dangerous situation. Kind of interesting that the Eagles played the Packers in the regular season and the Rams, and then you play them back-to-back in the playoffs. I guess that's happened. That's probably happened a decent – maybe not deep, but it's. I assume it's not rare, but definitely it's interesting. So we'll see.
Yeah, it is interesting, and the Rams did a good job of bottling up Aaron Jones last night. Cam Akers had more, I think, looked better, had more explosive runs, but still like nothing above like 10, 15 yards. I think that's obviously. I think. Especially with this game, Jalen Hurts wasn't getting anything done in the air, but your defense was able to be productive, and Saquon Barkley is just an engine. And the Packers were holding teams to under 100 rushing yards. I mean, Saquon eclipsed it by like 20 yards. But, I think that – and Saquon would have actually had like 180 yards if he didn't slide on that.
Yes.
Ending. What a good guy that Saquon, man. What a good guy. You got the Tom Brady LFG. What's that? Let's fucking go. What is?
Something like that. Oh, he did. He got that after the game.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I don't know. Tom Brady is a awful announcer. I'm just gonna be.
Yeah, he's not that good. It's kind of obviously we both have our thing with Brady with our Super Bowls. You guys have even more of a claim. We played him twice on the Super Bowl too. I want to like him, but there's some phoniness to him. Like, he's not a great announcer, but like, there's something phony about. I don't know. Obviously, the talent it's extraordinary. The accomplishments are great. He just seems like a fraud.
Dude, he tries to steal like a fact from Kevin Burkhardt. He's like, oh wait, what was it? And Kevin Burkhardt's like, yeah, that was I was supposed to read that. and he has like that's the name, that's the number of your. Yeah, it's like. And then he's like mid-conversation, and then he screws up, and then he just like pauses for like 5 seconds to be like, I'm like, okay, you know what, Tom? Like, you're a great quarterback. It's just lame because he's going to be doing the Super Bowl, isn't he? Fox is doing the Super Bowl, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. It's a good point. Yeah, I think that's right. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's when everybody in America will be like, "Wow, this Tom Brady is not a good announcer." I don't know how he'll deal with that. But yeah, I wasn't even at the end of the game. Kevin Burkhardt's like, "How would you give the Packers some hope?" And he's like, "Oh, there's no hope. They're going to need a miracle. They have no hope." I'm like, "Okay, thanks, Tom." Like if I'm a Packers fan, I hate him even more. But that is totally off topic. Going towards the Rams, from what I saw from the Rams team, Puka Nacua was getting involved as he is. I know he had 109 yards for 9 receptions the last time you guys met. Cooper Kupp, I think, needs to be more active. And he was I feel like towards the end of the season, he's been more of their like secret weapon, where Cooper Kupp is just as big of a superstar, still has all the talent. He needs to be more involved if the Rams want a chance here. Kyren Williams has been efficient. Yeah.
Not to interrupt, but I think with Kupp, I think that he's definitely on the downhill of his career. Or I guess I should say he will never be in the prime that he was, which was absolutely historic those years.
Yeah.
I think for the Rams, it's how do you utilize him to the best ability, knowing that he isn't the route runner, the more injured guy that he is now. So that's for them to battle with, but continue, please.
Yeah. And then, Tyler Higbee, I just looked because he was like the first 7 plays of the Rams against the Vikings yesterday.
He made some good plays. Yep.
I think he's still hospitalized. I do not think he will be playing next week.
I don't either.
Davis Allen played okay in relief as a tight end, but like Tyler Higbee, who's been injured most of the year, I tore his ACL, I think last playoffs. That's going to be kind of a big blow. But their defense, man, that young defense, we talked about it before, about how great they are at drafting ever since they stopped giving away their draft picks. Jared Verse looks great. Braden Fix looks great. Byron Young looks great. Kobe Turner, like how many sacks did they have yesterday?
Had a good game, yeah.
Yeah. I think they had and Neville Gallimore even had a sack and a half. Like,
I saw that at the it was at the end, but yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if they can do that, it's going to be a better offensive line, obviously. The Vikings offensive line, I think they didn't have Darisaw. They haven't had Darisaw for a while, right? So they've been kind of injured. But yeah,
a fraud team.
If they can get that same production, it's going to be tough with a better run game, because they were stuffing Aaron Jones. So they kind of took away the run game from the Vikings. With Saquon, they're not going to have that same pass production.
They said, and I think that they game plan correctly, Sam Darnold's going to have to beat us with his arm. And we know Sam Darnold holds the ball for a long time, so let's add pressure there while holding up the defensive line in the against the run, and it worked.
Yeah. So I didn't even have you seen this spread yet? I do like doing the guess.
No, I have not. No.
All right, Jeremy, what are you thinking here? So let's put in some predictions here. I'll tell you what, I need some predictions because my betting has been down the pooper.
Really?
I'll tell you that. Oh, so bad, dude. I should be off this app, dude. I'm managing myself, but
I don't think you're alone. It sounds like a lot of people aren't getting good reads on the end of the season into week 1 of the playoffs either, but I could be wrong.
You think you have everything figured out. Okay, what do you think this spread is here? Eagles at home.
I'll say Eagles minus 3.5.
Oh, dude, you're too modest.
Am I?
-6. Eagles -6. And honestly, I do respect that spread because there's all these big spreads, and I was like, oh, dude, like the Ravens Steelers, the Broncos Bills. There's all these larger spreads.
Yeah.
That I was like, okay, if you add a couple points, there's no way they're going to beat them by this much, but they did. So I mean. Yeah. Even though the Eagles kind of struggled and the Rams looked dominant, I think that they're still just going for the
I can see it.
Overall
I can see it. It seems like a big number for the playoffs, but I mean, we've seen this year that like they're the spreads they'll go as big as possible.
That's the second lowest spread of the week, by the way.
Wow.
Second lowest spread. Yeah. So, there's a lot of
interesting. I mean, I guess it always seemed weird. I guess I was sort of basing it off of the Packers Eagles initial spread, which was 2.5, which always seemed really weird and way too low, and then jumped
especially
up
after they lost to the Bears, with their
right.
starters in.
And it wasn't even just like they lost to the Vikings the week before. It seemed like they were crumbling a little bit. The spread then goes up to 5.5 by kickoff, which made a lot more sense, and I think showed you where the spread should have been from the start.
Yeah.
6, big number. I can see it. I understand. Hopefully they just win, but it would be great if they covered. And if it'll be interesting to see where 6 holds the line on people's initial bets on the spread, I guess.
Yeah, the over-under is set at 43.5. I feel like there was a lot of unders this week. A lot of unders.
Not much scoring, yes.
No, it was kind of a – I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed with the playoffs in general this week.
Yeah, I was thinking so too.
There was a lot of games that were close at half, but they like the Broncos Bills they were down down 3 at half.
And then the Broncos didn't score.
Yeah.
I think it's better with 6 teams in each conference, in my opinion. It's I don't know. I think Broncos good year, something to aspire to for next year going forward with their future, with maybe Bo Nix and Sean Payton, but I just don't think that they were. I think that if you left them out for the playoffs this year, it would have been fine. Packers, I think they deserve to be in the playoffs, but we're sort of seeing that their schedule kind of helped out a lot. So, yeah, hopefully the next round better, and I think it should be a little more competitive.
Yeah, I don't know. The Chiefs Texans. I'm really hoping the Texans pull another upset because I mean they looked great against the Chargers, but
they did.
The Chiefs are not the Chargers, so it'll be interesting. But let's talk about these Eagles Rams. What do you think? First off, AJ Brown. You think there's a little bit of compensation for the lack of targets, or you think they just stick to the script, focus on running the ball with Saquon?
I think.
Where do you see this going?
A little of both. I think they still stick with the script overall, but definitely, it's one of those things where everybody said after the game, I wouldn't be surprised if AJ got 12 targets the next week and 10 catches, kind of thing. So I think that they try to use him a little more, but I think they still stick with the bread and butter and the ultimate game plan of running the ball 60% of the time. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's and then rely on your defense. I think that's it.
Yep.
I'm just trying to see here if Akilo Witherspoon is going to be back. Oh, yeah, I think it was just we'll see. Yeah, that might be a big deal. Yeah, he got hurt towards the end for the Rams.
I thought he wasn't that good, though. I mean, I guess he's a player.
Still starting.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I think also I think Cam Kinchens has been out too. Who's that rookie out of the Miami that they had that's been kind of productive this year.
Big safety.
Yeah, big boy. But I don't know. I'm not ruling anything out here.
Byron Young also might have had some late injury. I don't know how serious it was though.
Oh yeah, I think I saw him at the end cheering it up with Jared Verse.
Yeah, he ran. He was running to the locker room too, so that's probably a good sign for the Rams.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see the Eagles covering the spread just because of the way that I've seen it shake out.
I could too.
I know that the last time they played was in November, but the teams still seem very similar. Like the output. Yeah. The outputs, could change here and there. I also think that this young Philly defense and the young Rams defense are just getting better week by week. I mean, Jared Verse, the most dominant he did, probably defensive rookie of the year. I don't know. Could be defensive rookie of the year. We got a couple of defensive rookie of the year.
I think he'll get it for sure.
Yeah.
Who else would he have competition with?
I know that you love your Quinyon Mitchell, but I don't.
Yeah, I do. I think Quinyon legitimately deserves it because at the cornerback position, starting as a rookie like that and to do what he does, it's just amazing. it seems like a stat-driven award, and the problem is they don't throw to Quinion, and he also has unfortunately had a few opportunities to make some interceptions. He's had a few drops. He's also had a few interceptions that have been stolen from like guys like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Didn't have an interception in the regular season. Has one in the playoffs, which I guess the voting's already done. I think it's a stat-driven award. I think for someone like Verse, I think that's how he gets it over Quinion ultimately.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, but is what
fair,
it is.
Fair.
First,
and he didn't even have that many stats.
First was also great too. So
yeah, definitely good. But yeah, I could see this game. Honestly, I could see this game going 27-21, Eagles to Rams. But I'm not cutting the Rams out. But that's if you had to ask me to put money on it right now, that -6 line is a push for me. That's how. Yeah. I'd probably buy points in the Rams' favor.
Okay.
Or in the Eagles' favor. Yeah, that 6 line I don't love. Jeremy, what are your thoughts?
I think I'll go Eagles 26, Rams 17.
Okay.
And they cover. I think something like that. Yeah.
But you think Jake Elliott misses like an extra point again?
That, or they just unfortunately have to settle for more field goals and just don't finish as often in the red zone as I would like, which sort of seems in some ways to be a pattern, although they took care of that against the Rams, obviously, with Saquon. They scored a lot of touchdowns. So I think my thinking is just a more driven game where they're moving the ball very well, of course, but settling for a few more field goals than I would like, and that's how you get to 26.
Yeah. Okay, fair. I think that the Rams are going to look at that tape with the Eagles as the Eagles are going to look at that tape with the Rams. And I don't think Saquon Barkley is going for 300 yards of scrimmage this game.
I do not think so either. That would be
I'll never count him out for 100 yards on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think that the Rams definitely game plan more with the run against Saquon for sure. 255 is a lot. Very hard to get to.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about these Eagles before we get to the Washington Commanders?
No, we can move on for sure.
Cool. Yes, the Washington Commanders beat the Buccaneers in Tampa 23-20 to close out Sunday night, the closest match of the weekend. One of the better matches, I would say.
Yes.
And they win on the doink, the divisional doink by Zane Gonzalez. And Jaden Daniels looks good. He gets bloodied up. He says, I don't give a fuck, man. I'm going to win this game. Baker Mayfield looked like kind of butt cheeks towards the end of the game, too. They looked strong in the first half. And Mike Evans, by the way, took advantage of Marshawn Lattimore. That was like the big Marshawn Lattimore. I think in the first half, Mike Evans had like 60 yards up against Lattimore. So Marshawn, I know that was one of the big pickups, one of the reasons to be optimistic about the Commanders' defense. Hopefully that was just Mike Evans getting the best of his old friend. But
he does it to a lot of people, of course. But I think that who is he going up against? Amon-Ra St. Brown. Oof. Good luck.
Yeah. That'll. I mean, even Jamison Williams. I don't know if he's in a fall.
Yeah, that too.
But Jamison Williams in hell. Tim Patrick going forward. But talking about this game, Jaden Daniels, dude, he just doesn't waver. And somebody who I feel like was all smiles all season. There was like that big quote after the game. He's like, I didn't even think I smiled. He was just like, he's still ready. He was still locked in. He's preparing for the Lions already after they win. This is like we said, the Eagles played the Packers week 1. The Commanders played the Bucs week 1. The Commanders obviously have grown a lot since then. And I was actually looking at some of the stats and everything from like week 1 comparing. And, Jaden Daniels, I think, had like 80, 90 yards rushing that first game. He only had 36 this game on 3 less attempts. But he didn't really need it. Yeah. He didn't really need it as much. And that's the one thing that I would be concerned with if I am the Commanders, because next week they're playing a very high-scoring Lions team, and they weren't able to run the ball at all. And Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey, they're a great duo up front, and obviously Levante David too, backing them up. But still a concern. I mean, Brian Robinson wasn't able to get anything on the ground. Sorry, can you hear me, Jeremy?
Yep.
Okay, turn off Siri. It's in the middle of Siri. What the hell? Yeah, Brian Robinson, 1.6 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Austin, a little bit better, but still only 3.4 yards per carry. It's surprising. Austin Eckler comes back, and he looked like the better back, and he was utilized a lot more, too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say per touch. Brian Robinson was still utilized more per touch, but yeah, I think that they'll definitely be splitting that evenly in the week ahead. And then Terry McLaurin looked freaking phenomenal. It's just and De'Ami Brown, man.
Yeah, what a game for him! Oh my god.
If it's not De'Ami Brown, it's Olamide Zaccheaus, and if it's not him, then it's Brown. It's like
this team has talent. Like Daniels, not to interrupt. Daniels is very good. He has a good this is something I said last week too. I think they can get better at offensive positions for sure, but what they have right now is pretty good. I mean, McLaurin obviously don't have to get into him. Their balanced run game with different options with Eckler, with Robinson, with Rodriguez, with other guys too, with McNichols. That's decent. That the depth there and the versatility, that's awesome. Obviously, there's no star, but you have options there when you're so versatile. Zach Ertz, very good tight end still. Who else receiving? Olamide Zaccheaus, nice receiver. De'Ami Brown. There's potential there with a good quarterback. So they have, they're a team that has talent. And then you have Eckler who can receive too in the backfield. They've had options for sure. Can they be better next year? Yes. But they were smart to put a good team around Daniels in year one instead of him playing with crap, which we see a lot of times with rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, and then also this is the first Commanders playoff win since 2006? Was it?
Yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. I know I was looking at the stat too. It was like the first year underneath Dan Snyder, I believe. No, maybe not. I'm pulling something out of my butt. But the first year underneath Josh Harris, they win their first playoff game in almost 20 years. That's awesome. And even when they had that Taylor Heineke run against where they almost beat the Tom Brady Bucks under Ron Rivera
during the pandemic,
this is this is now. They were playing with house money before, but now they're playing with even more. They can get blown out by the Lions, and they should still feel good. Obviously, they don't want to be blown out by the Lions. But if you're a Commanders fan, house money all the way. I think if Jaden Daniels even just stays competent, which I haven't seen him really crumble this season. You really have you've seen it, mistakes here and there, but you see that from Patrick Mahomes, you see that from Josh Allen. Jaden Daniels really hasn't collapsed at any point this season, unless. He played, I think, one of his best games too. I mean, he was accurate, 24 for 35, 268, the 2 touchdowns. He played well. What are your
I think it helps that his schedule wasn't that hard and obviously with the last place schedule, but also just the fact that he has played well for sure. It's one of those things, in my opinion, where it's going to be tough because if Washington loses to the Lions, like I sort of said last week, the honeymoon phase is over. And obviously it seems like they have Daniels could be a star for the future going forward, but it's not given. These quarterbacks year 2, they struggle a lot. CJ Stroud was supposed to be the next boy wonder, and now he looks iffy. Obviously, they won the game against a bad Chargers team at Herbert. I mean, he's just not doing himself any favors. But we'll see. It's tough because, now it's the pressure's on for Washington after this year, assuming they don't win the Super Bowl. And so we'll see. It's obviously you celebrate this year, but I think it's business going forward next year, and then going forward. I use the Giants as a prime example. I think they're a great example of this. A few years ago, had a nice year, beat the Vikings in the first round, get pummeled by the Eagles in the divisional round. Nothing. Shame to that. The Eagles were a better team. And you're feeling good about the Giants. And then it's just like they obviously collapsed after that. Now, Daniels is much better than Daniel Jones, but we'll see. It's they got to start winning long term, and that's really hard in the NFL.
That's fair, but also I think something that I've been mentioning, because I think I'm a little bit more optimistic on these Commanders, which
yes,
in a bad way. Like, trust me, I would like them to fail as a Giants fan, but they really just picked up all these scraps, and then they have one of the highest caps too. So I think that they did good. Like, they hit on a lot of those free agents. They got great draft picks with Sandersville and Jaden Daniels, obviously, and Johnny Newton. But now they have all this cap space to kind of fill in the blanks to where they may fall short. And also, like, I love Brian Robinson. Austin Eckler's a good supplement, but this is a deep running back class, and they could probably get like a star in the third round too. That would boost this too. As much as I like Brian Robinson, he's kind of like, after coming back from injury, I feel like he hasn't been the same runner. Production wise.
I think it might be a stretch, but definitely somebody better than what they have. Possibly.
All right. Well, let's I mean, the Bucs, it sucks. I think everybody kind of was rooting for Baker. I think everybody kind of likes the Bucs, but good for the Commanders moving forward, and ultimately got the win. Zane Gonzalez, though, man, I mean, he got that kick, but
he was nervous.
Looked really nervous. Yeah.
Did you see how he was adjusting? Did you see how he was adjusting his hair, Sean, like before the helmet, and then he kept doing it? Nervous guy.
I guess he has OCD. He came out and said that. Yeah, I mean, and especially kicking is so OCD. Yeah, he came out and said that he has OCD. I mean, that's why he was probably like, Jaden, get the ball to the right hash. Get it to the right hash.
Right.
Get it to the right hash.
He took a lick. Didn't Daniels take a decent lick? Not like a significant, but didn't he get hit doing that?
He did.
Gotta get there.
He got to the hash. He also lost 4 yards rushing. Ruined his over on the rushing props with that.
It ruined a lot of people. Yeah, I heard. Which I
had it, but that's how bad my parlays were, dude. I wasn't.
It just doesn't matter.
That didn't. But yeah, you want to talk about?
It's a strong win for Washington for sure on the road too. Yeah. I don't think the Bucs are that good of a team. I think the matchup really helped with Washington, especially since Daniels is such a talented quarterback. It wasn't usually with wildcard teams. The quarterback, the reason why you're a wildcard team is your quarterback isn't special. I don't think that's the case with Washington. I think that they were a wildcard team. They had a lot of competition with the Eagles, of course, in front of them. And I don't think they're as good as the Eagles with anywhere close roster wise either, but they have the quarterback. And I think that helps as a wildcard team. That's just such a danger. And that's such a threat, for the team that they're playing, even if the Bucs are home. I also don't think the Bucs are that good, honestly. I think Evans is amazing. Baker is decent, but also has bad moments. Defense, they're smart, but it was tough for them to handle Daniels. They wanted to stop the run. They did that, but Daniels also had a nice game. I think threw around 270 yards. Balanced game too with different receivers, of course, with Diami Brown and McLaurin. I mentioned a few. I think the Bucs are just so bland. It's weird because they've had the Eagles number the last few times they've met up, and they've played the Eagles brilliantly in their schemes. But ultimately, if it's not against the Eagles, I just think they're just such a bland, boring team. That's okay, but not that good. And someone had to come out of the South, and it took the last week. And they also were competing against Atlanta for the position, and Atlanta isn't that good yet either. Although Michael Penix could maybe he'll be nice going forward. So I think the matchups definitely helped Washington, especially because I thought that it was unfair. I think the Rams are better than Washington. I think the Rams played a harder team in the Vikings than Washington did with the Bucs, but it is there, and Washington still wins at the buzzer on the road. So kind of sucks that their reward is play the Lions. But, that's the playoffs.
I will tell you what, though, too. I think Cliff Kingsbury drew up a very good just set of plays to take up that whole last 4.5 minutes. I'm sure when the Bucs tied it up, they thought we're going to get the ball back and get a shot. And I think if they did get the ball back, they would have, had something to say about it. Like Mike Evans, McMillan, the Bucky was playing well. But to drain 4.5 minutes on that final drive to close it out, I mean, that was that's especially with the run game not working as well as it could. Like there was a lot of just good chunk plays, kept the clock moving.
You just have to play for a field goal too. That's massive.
Yeah.
Not having to get a touchdown, move the ball enough, stay in bounds, keep the clock going, use it to your advantage. It's what the Eagles have done year after year when they're successful, and it's the clock is so important, and you're really playing against the clock essentially. And if you have the ball with 4.5 minutes, you don't want the other team to get it, and that's not like that much time either. So hopefully you should be able to do it. And when you're able to, you win ball games. Not giving the ball back to the other team is just massive in so many ways, especially in that situation.
Yeah, especially talking about not getting the ball back. The Commanders, again, did not punt.
Yeah.
They didn't need to. They were scoring and converting fourth downs, which they have done very well this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about for this game before we start this preview with the Lions?
I don't think so, no. Let's get into the preview.
All right. So, spread, Jeremy, what do you think it's at? I did say that the Eagles had the second lowest, so
yes, I will use that in my favor. I will say, oh, wow, I don't want to go too low on this, but it seems high in my opinion. I'll go Lions -10.
Oh, yeah, I mean, right there. -9.5 is what it's at. I don't know what it started at, but currently it is at Lions -9.5.
Part of me wanted to get the half, but I said not too much. I really thought it would be around 10. So,
yeah, that is the highest spread. The Chiefs are -7.5 against the Texans, and then Bills are actually +1.5 at home against the Ravens. That's interesting, but.
Yeah, that is every year in the divisional round with the AFC. It seems like the Chiefs play a bad team, and the Ravens and Bills have to duke it out. That's unfortunate. I guess that's what happens when you have three. It's always going to happen if you have three strong teams, and assuming they all move on to the level that they should. But yeah, that's the Chiefs get a week off and they get to play the Texans. Bills and Ravens have to play Wildcard week. Obviously, they didn't play anybody good, and then their reward is playing each other. But 10.5. Wow, makes sense. Lions are really good.
Yeah, 9.5. But yes, this is
it is 9.5.
9.5. Yeah, 9.5.
Lions.
What I meant to say. Lions. Yeah.
Okay. I would have been off.
So the half point was but still within a half point.
Yes.
Yeah, the Lions though are the best, highest scoring offenses, one of the best offenses. As much as I love this Commanders team, I think the way to win this game, because I don't care how good your defense is, the Vikings defense was great throughout the seasons. Lions smoked them. I think this is the Commanders offense needs to put up. And I was actually reading this awesome article from Ryan Ford of the Detroit Free Press. Pretty cool, Ryan Ford, especially because they played at Ford Field in Detroit. But
Ford is big in Detroit, in the Michigan area, I've heard.
Yeah. The motor areas. The last names. It's just a lot of Fords. Just keep reproducing and keep that production high.
I'm pretty sure related.
Those vehicles.
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe not.
I don't know. But he brought up some really good comparisons with these offenses.
Okay.
And by the way, this is also the battle of the Dans, which last week we had the battle of the Seans, Sean McDermott versus Sean Payton. Now we got Dan Campbell versus Dan Quinn. So this is the Dan Bowl, the Super Dan Bowl in the divisional round. But the two highest scoring teams on their per drive, percentage-wise,
yes.
The Lions were number one at 51%, 51.2%.
Wait, sorry. Can you say that again, Sean?
the two teams that scored the highest percentage of their drives. Okay, so the Lions scored on 51.2% of their drives, and the Commanders are second at 50% of their drives they scored on.
Okay.
Then they're both big fourth down guys. Dan Campbell, obviously a huge fourth down guy. Dan Quinn, quietly, has been really good on fourth down and actually more efficient for the Commanders. The Commanders are number one, converting 87% of their fourth downs.
Right.
And the Lions only converted 67, which is good for seventh, but they also, I think they attempt it more. So, that's just the percentage there.
Right.
And then you're going towards the blitz, which Joe Witt Jr., quietly has been blitzing a lot, and which is why I think he's gotten good production off of guys like Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler Jr. And then Aaron Glenn, as you saw against the Vikings the last week, was really good with also like an injured front. And I'll tell you what, their Zaire, what the hell is his last name? Zaire Smith was a great pickup for them because he's still pretty dominant. He looks good, especially with Aiden Hutchinson gone, which he said maybe he can come back for the Super Bowl. I don't know. That'd be crazy. The Lions had the second highest blitz percentage with 34.6. I think number one probably went to Brian Flores. That didn't work out too well for them. And then the Commanders are fifth at 31.5%. So there's a lot of similarities with these teams. Like, it almost seems like the Commanders, and they're built differently. Like Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, totally different quarterbacks.
Oh yeah.
But in terms of their like ascent and how aggressive they are with the blitzes, going on fourth down, like scoring on so many percentage of their drives, that kind of goes hand in hand with that, going forward on fourth down. I think the only way that the Commanders are going to really win this game is to keep their offense in line with because their defense can do the best they can.
Shootout.
Yeah, but it needs to be a shootout.
Yeah.
And by the way, the over/under I think is like 54.
Yeah,
I'd
stay away
55
from
and a half. 55 and a half. I don't know, man. A lot of unders this week, but if there's a game, the Lions are pretty good at hitting that over sometimes on their own. So,
yeah. Washington's defense, I don't think is amazing either. I think the stat about scoring drives, I would assume that the Lions more of their scoring drives have been touchdowns compared to Washington. I'd have to look into that, of course. Both teams are aggressive for sure. I think the difference is Washington had to be aggressive to win these games in the regular season, and Detroit didn't really have to be aggressive. That's just their mindset, essentially. It's going to be tough for Washington. I think a shootout would be hard for them to win, to keep up. I think they have to play a game, in my opinion, where they are holding on to the ball for extended minutes each drive. I think that's the best way to beat this Lions team, who can score at a high level, keep the ball out of their hands. So, is it doable? Maybe. I don't think they'll be able to do it ultimately, though.
Yeah. Like we just said, like they weren't getting a good run production. They ate up 4.5 minutes on that final drive. I think they also had a 7-minute drive earlier in the game against the Bucs. So the Commanders, even if they're not able to run the ball, should be able to extend drives. But very similar to Aaron Jones, I feel like Austin Eckler is, as like a small back who can also catch out of the backfield. And Aaron Jones had a pretty decent day with the Vikings against the Lions the last time that the Lions played. I think that you get more production with Austin Eckler. I wouldn't be surprised if Austin Eckler is on the field a little bit more than Brian Robinson.
I could see it. It depends on how the Lions game plan them and how much emphasis they put on stopping the run / stopping screens to stopping the running backs in the backfield / catch game as receivers. So
Yeah, and that Lions defense, even though they've lost some pieces, like Aleem McNeil, I know we talked about, torn ACL, Aiden Hutchinson, I feel like just left and right. But they still have DJ Reader on that front. Linebacker wise, they got Anzalone back with that crazy score, and also Jack Campbell? Jack Campbell, their first round pick 2 years ago, is still a stud. So,
Yeah.
I mean, not to mention.
Well, they just don't lose during these injuries. Like, they lost to the Bills, but the Bills are good during the time frame, and they still scored a lot against the Bills. It was kind of like a shootout. They're never in favor of the shootout, but they made it close at the end. So they weren't losing. Now, I think the schedule probably helped. I don't think that they were beating I just don't think they beat any good teams. But I mean, the record speaks for itself. 15 wins in the 1 seed. So they, even during their injuries, they still were finishing the job every Sunday or whenever they played.
Yeah, and I mean, the Lions, I think, is everybody's favorite team. My 2 Super Bowl picks, by the way, are still in this: Lions and Texans. That was, early that I picked.
Yes.
But I'm gonna be completely real with you here. I think there is a chance the Commanders could stay in this game, and I think everything needs to go right for them. But if I had to guess, I think the Lions take this one, and I could see them covering the spread too. But just as predictions go, I think I'm going to go 31-21.
Yeah,
so that covers the spread.
Right.
Still a good production.
Yeah, interesting. Washington just has not beaten anyone this year that's good, in my opinion. They beat the Eagles with a backup quarterback and Kenny Pickett. Even though the Eagles were up 14-0 early on, it would have smoked Washington if Jalen Hurts didn't get hurt. They beat the Bucs last week. Obviously, it's a playoff win, so you have to consider that in its own terms in a good way. I still don't think the Bucs are that good. They just haven't. They've taken care of a lot of bad teams, which is it's noteworthy. But this is the Lions, and I think the Lions win something like 35-20.
Okay, yeah, kind of in the same range.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't even really talk about the Lions' offense, but they could score in multiple ways. Jahmyr Gibbs hasn't really taken a step. I mean, he scored all of their touchdowns in the game against the Vikings?
Like that.
3 or 4 touchdowns? I know, because I almost lost my fantasy when I had Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta and Jared Goff and their kicker, Jake Bates. But yeah, that was brutal. But yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown is lethal. Jameson Williams is lethal. Ben Johnson is like the most coveted offensive mind in the league right now.
Yep, he is.
He'll get creative even if they're winning. Like he'll put the dagger in with a weird, hook and ladder play. Which I wouldn't be surprised if we see. And then Sam Laporta, who maybe struggled a little bit in terms of fantasy production in the beginning of the year, has really come together. So Sam Laporta is just as good as he's been all year. And then Tim Patrick as like a little wide receiver 3 is great. Tim Patrick has been very productive. And he was great with the Broncos when he was healthy there.
Nice little vet, at this point,
Commanders, all the best to you. I'll tell you what, if it's Commanders, Eagles, and what do you guys make it into the Super Bowl? It's going to be tough for me.
That'll be interesting.
Very tough. And if I have to read through the Chiefs again, it's going to be sad, So
can't do that.
Yeah. It's rough. So, rooting for the Lions. Obviously, it's fun covering these Commanders, and it's been a hell of a year. So, anything else you want to talk about these Commanders before you wrap things up, Jeremy?
It's like, I don't know. It really is unfortunate they have to play the Lions in this game. Mm-hmm. It sounds silly, but
if you want to make it to the Super Bowl, that's his path.
No, of course. I'm not disagreeing with that kind of stuff. Absolutely, especially because I thought that they were a lesser seed, and they shouldn't. I think the Rams had a harder matchup, like I said earlier. But I think if Washington played someone who wasn't as good, maybe they'd have more of a chance with the way they're playing, with the way they're confident and whatnot. Oh, camera's gone.
Yeah, I froze a little bit there.
There you go. But
Yeah.
I think it's one of those cases where it's like, if Washington wasn't playing as good of a team as Detroit, maybe they could make it interesting. The fact that they're playing Detroit, it just doesn't seem likely.
Yeah.
We'll see.
No, I don't think
or that competitive, which is a little disappointing. I don't know.
Hopefully it is. I mean, it's the Saturday night game. So, I mean, we're let's hope that it's a better matchup, because we could use it, because I think the Chiefs Texans are the other game that day, and if they're both blowouts, then it's just not good for football. And I hope it's competitive, dude. Like, and I want to see Jaden Daniels play well, like, regardless. Like, I'm a fan of good football. But the Lions are one of the most entertaining teams to watch in the NFL this year, and their offense is a big part of it. And their defense, even as injured as it is, still has so many. I mean, they have Kirby Joseph, who led the NFL in interceptions, and Brian Branch too, who I feel like in the past couple of weeks he still plays great, but I feel like he's been getting penalized a lot. Just in the game I've been watching him, but I mean, Brian Branch.
Yeah, he had a bad one. The other, it just comes down with the Lions just drafting Bama boys: Jameson Williams, Brian Branch, Terry and Arnold, Jameer Gibbs. How can you leave him out?
Yeah. So, good luck. Good luck to these NFC beasts.
Thank you.
Yeah. You guys have keep this run going. I'm a fan of the division, not the Giants. No, I'm a fan of the Giants. This is like really hard for me. Like, I was rooting I think I was more heartbroken about the Packers losing to the Eagles than Coral was, who's my girlfriend, a huge Packers fan.
I can understand that. I think as a true Packers fan, as Coral is, as a lot of Packer fans are, I think that they sort of saw the writing on the wall, and it was just like, it's tough for the Packers, because last year was like overachieved, most likely. And then this year it's like, all right, let's move forward and start the NFL. So it's hard to win in the NFL. And playoffs are tough. It's,
Yeah. And also with all the injuries they accumulated throughout the game, even regardless if those were going to carry into next week, like, even if they made it through that game, I didn't feel great about them going forward.
Well, people afterwards are like, even if the Packers won that game somehow, I don't know if they would have been able to put out a 46 the week after. So
because they would be playing the Lions. Yeah, they would be the lowest.
Or they would be playing Detroit too. Yeah, so that disaster.
Yeah, Dan Campbell too. You really jinxed the Vikings when you said I'll see you in 2 weeks. So.
Yes, that he's a troll. He did that intentionally. It's kind of funny. I don't care about Minnesota either. So that's just that is brutal. That is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, it was a stinker, dude. My good friend and neighbor who I watch football with every week, he was over watching the Vikings games last night, and he wanted to turn it off in the first half. It was rough. But that's an episode. Like and subscribe, guys. Hopefully you guys liked everything. Tell us how awful we are. Tell us how great we are. Just be honest. Be critical. Or be positive. Tell us how great we are for once, please. It'd be nice. Jeremy, anything you want to say before we head out of here?
Go Birds.
All right. Hey, and go NFC East. Come on, guys. Dude, go tell them why we're the beasts. Go show them. Go show those Lions. Yeah.
Especially after the NFC North collapse with their 3 teams.
Yeah, show the NFC North that they're nothing. Yes. Go get a win, Commanders. You got it, guys. Wow. All right. See you later. Bye.